Hey, welcome. So today we're going to look at energy from a completely different angle. I'm not talking about new places to drill or build power plants. Nope. We're going to look at the stuff we throw away every single day.
So let's kick things off with a pretty big idea. What if our biggest problems, all the waste, the pollution, the fact that we're running out of stuff, what if those weren't just problems we have to solve? What if they were actually our best, most powerful resources, just hiding in plain sight?
All right, to really get this, we first need to understand the system we're all stuck in right now. It's a linear model, kind of like a one-way street that's been powering our world for a long, long time, but spoiler alert, it's heading straight for a dead end.
It works like this. We take raw materials from the planet, we make them into products, and then, when we're done, we just toss them. This whole take-make-waste pipeline, it's been the backbone of modern life. But here's the catch. It's built on a fantasy. The fantasy that we have endless resources and an endless garbage can to dump everything into. And, well, we don't.
And you can literally see the result of that fantasy right here. Just look at these charts. These spikes in population, consumption, CO2 emissions, they're almost vertical. Our linear system is what fueled all this incredible growth for sure. But it's also the reason we're putting this absolutely insane amount of pressure on the planet.
And we can actually put a number on that pressure, 1.5. That number right there, it's a critical tipping point we've already blown past. Right now, humanity is using up the Earth's resources 1.5 times faster than the planet can possibly regenerate them. We are, quite literally, living on borrowed time from our future.
This whole situation boils down to a classic problem that people call the tragedy of the commons. Think about it, right? The Earth's resources, clean air, fresh water, forests, they belong to all of us. They're a shared commons. But our linear system basically encourages every person, every company, every country to grab as much as they can for themselves. And the result? We end up destroying the very system that we all need to survive.
Okay, so it's pretty clear this can't go on forever, right? We need a massive shift in how we think. And that shift, believe it or not, starts at the very end of that broken one-way street, with our garbage.
I love this quote. Waste is not waste. It is merely a misplaced resource. This just nails the new way of thinking. What if we stop seeing trash as the end of the line and start seeing it as the beginning of something new? The whole idea is that something is only waste because we haven't been creative enough to figure out what to do with it next.
And the very first step is so simple, but it changes everything. Just separate it. On one side, you've got your typical mixed garbage. It's a chaotic, smelly, hazardous mess that makes recycling a total nightmare. But on the other side, when you segregate waste, you get these clean, organized streams of materials that are just ready and waiting to become something useful again.
And hey, this isn't just some pie-in-the-sky idea. Take a look at this model from Amrita University. They put this clear, 4-step process in place, and it all starts with separating waste right where it's created. And just like that, they turned a huge waste problem into a resource solution. Each of those separated piles, food scraps, paper, plastics, becomes a valuable raw material for a brand new process, whether that's compost, recycling, or even creating energy.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because here's the direct link to energy. All that organic waste, the food scraps and stuff, it's not just for compost anymore. Through a process called biomethanation, you can feed it to microbes that produce biogas, a totally renewable fuel. Or through another process called pyrolysis, you can heat it up without oxygen to create things like biochar and syngas for power. All of a sudden, your dinner leftovers are a power source. How cool is that?
Okay, so this same circular logic doesn't just apply to our garbage cans. It also applies to another resource we tend to treat in that same linear way, water. We use it, we pollute it, and then we spend a ridiculous amount of energy trying to clean it up just to throw it away.
Yeah, check out this number, 320 kilowatt hours. That's how much energy it takes to treat just 1 million liters of sewage with our current methods. Think about that for a second. We're literally pouring electricity down the drain. It's this massive hidden energy cost that's baked into our everyday lives.
So you gotta ask, right? Do we really have to burn all that energy? Is this the only way? Or can we apply that same misplaced resource idea to our water systems and find a much smarter way to do things?
And it turns out there are absolutely two very different paths. Over on the left, you've got the old-school conventional model. You pump in tons of energy, spend a lot of money, and you get treated water and sludge. Okay,
But on the right, you have these amazing alternative methods, like constructed wetlands, that basically let nature do the heavy lifting. They use way less energy, and they don't just give you clean water back, they can actually generate valuable stuff like biogas for energy. They turn a huge expense into an asset.
All right, so we've rethought garbage, and we've rethought wastewater. Now, let's zoom out even further. Let's apply this same circular logic to our entire industrial system, from the tiniest gadget to the biggest factory. The main tool we use for this is something called a life cycle assessment, or LCA. And instead of just looking at what a product does, an LCA looks at its entire life story, from the moment its raw materials are dug out of the ground, all the way to the day it gets thrown out. It's about figuring out the true total cost of a thing.
What an LCA really does is force us to see all the invisible stuff. Every drop of water, every watt of energy, every little bit of pollution at every single stage of a product's life. It makes the invisible impacts totally visible, and that's always the first step if you actually want to fix them.
So what if we started connecting these life cycles together? This brings us to a really powerful concept called industrial symbiosis. It sounds complicated, but it's a beautifully simple idea. One company's waste is just another company's raw material that hasn't found its home yet.
And this isn't just a theory, this is happening for real. In a place called Kalundborg in Denmark, there's an entire industrial park that works just like an ecosystem. A power plant doesn't just let its extra steam disappear into the air, it pipes it over to a pharmaceutical company that needs heat. The ash left over from the power plant isn't dumped in a landfill, it becomes a critical ingredient for a cement factory next door. It's a closed loop. Nothing is wasted.
So, this big shift from a straight line to a closed loop, that's really the heart of a sustainable future. It's a huge change for industries and governments, for sure, but it also has really profound meaning for how each and every one of us lives our lives. I just love this quote, "We are the ones we have been waiting for," because it's a powerful reminder that this big transformation isn't something that's just going to happen to us. It's something that will happen because of us. The power to move from a linear world to a circular one, it really does start with our choices and what we demand.
And look, those choices are real, they're practical, and they are so powerful. Every single time you decide to use a little less water, or you separate your recycling, or you buy something that's built to last, you are casting a vote for a circular economy. You're helping build the demand that will force the whole system to change.
You know, at the end of the day, this isn't just about the environment. It's just basic logic. As this quote says, you'd have to be a madman or an economist to think you can have infinite growth on a finite planet. So we have a choice. We can keep running down this dead-end street. Or we can get smart. We can embrace a circular future, a future where our biggest problems actually become our greatest strengths, and our waste becomes our energy.